Your equation sheet is pretty handy. It contains pretty much every equation you could be asked to use. If you're studying AQA, it'll look a bit like this. On the front page, you'll have mostly paper 1 equations, and there are a couple on the back. On the back is mostly paper 2 equations. It's not perfect. I don't think it's the best equation sheet, but there are some things that aren't on there, which is really helpful to know if you're studying for GCSE science. So in today's video, I'm going to tell you about all the equations that might come up that you don't get in your equation sheet. Some of them are mathematical ones, some of them are just key terms you need to know that you could be asked to apply numbers to. So let's get started.
The first equation we're going to look at is in the forces and motion topic, and it's to do with something called stopping distance. The idea behind stopping distance is when you're driving a vehicle and you see a hazard, it takes a certain distance between when you see the hazard, then you apply your brakes, and then before your vehicle hopefully stops in time. That stopping distance is made up of the thinking distance added to the braking distance. Thinking distance, the distance you travel while you're reacting, and the braking distance, the distance you travel while your feet are slammed on the brakes and you're hoping for the best. So that equation is not in your equation sheet, but it's a really useful one to know and to quote in questions. Because whenever they ask you about thinking or braking distance or reaction time and how it affects stopping distance, just quoting that equation itself will get you a mark because it's not on your equation sheet. The next one to look at is in the states of matter topic, which is something called internal energy. So internal energy relates to particles and it's made up of the particles' kinetic energy and their potential energy. So particles in a gas or a liquid or a solid are moving around, either vibrating or moving, and the kinetic energy is the speed of those particles and relates to their temperature. The higher the temperature, the higher the speed. Substance's potential energy is related to the spacing of those particles. If there is a state change, then if it's melting or evaporating, the spacing is increasing, and that means there's an increase in potential energy. Just like on this graph here, if we watch as a substance melts, as it gets hotter, it increases kinetic energy. As it melts, it increases potential energy. And as it then evaporates as potential energy, the temperature increasing only increases the kinetic energy, not the potential energy. Next one we're going to look at is to do with electricity, and it's all about resistors. So in the series, when we ask to find the total resistance, there's a very simple equation which isn't given to you, but you do need to know to find the total resistance. And that's if we have 3 resistors together, let's say R1, R2, R3, to find the total resistance, we just find the sum of them. So let's say, for example, 20, 10, and 30 ohms, we can add those together to find the total resistance in series is 60 ohms. Now, in parallel, resistors are added slightly differently. There is no equation you need to remember at GCSE, there is at A level, but you do need to know that the total resistance is lower than the resistance of the lowest value resistor. Let's say we had those 3 resistors from earlier, the total resistance has to be less than 10 ohms. That's because you're adding more branches for the current to flow down, so you're actually increasing the current. It's like more lanes on a motorway, you're increasing the traffic. So the resistance, as you add more resistors in parallel, is actually decreasing, and in this case, it'd be below 10 ohms because 10 ohms is the lowest one we've got there. The next equation in the forces and motion topic is conservation of momentum. Now, conservation of momentum is a definition you definitely need to know. It says in a closed system, the momentum before an event or before a collision is equal to the momentum afterwards. Momentum itself, the equation you're given, is equal to mass times velocity, but there's a really helpful equation to know when you're applying conservation of momentum. Let's use an example. Let's say we've got 2 objects, 2 balls that before are heading towards each other with different speeds, and afterwards we're trying to find the speed of one of them after they've collided. To work out the momentum before, we say the mass times velocity, initial velocity, u, or object 1, plus the mass times initial velocity of object 2. And after, it's the same, but this time it's the final velocity. So we say m1 v1 plus m2 v2. Now, this equation is just a really good one to memorize if you struggle with the maths or if you find it helpful to memorize to work out, for example, final speeds or initial speeds. Let's put it into practice. Let's say both of these balls have the same mass, so 0.1. If we were to add the momentum together initially, 0.1 times 3 plus 0.1 times minus 1, because the velocity is in the opposite direction, it has to equal 0.1 times by its final velocity plus the second ball is going at a speed of 1.5 times that by 0.1. So let's then just resolve for v. We've got 0.3 minus 0.1 equals 0.1v plus 0.15. So putting all our like terms on one side, I keep my v's on the right and my regular numbers on the left. We'll find that we're going to have v equals 0.2 minus 0.15 equals 0.1v, give us an overall speed of 0.5 meters per second. And that's how you can use that equation to work out conservation of momentum questions for separate science students only. Next one we're going to look at is to do with moments and equilibrium. So moments are the turning effect of a force, and we're going to use the example of a seesaw to help demonstrate this. Let's say I've got two objects which have a weight downwards on either side of a seesaw. One has a different weight to the other, and they're at different distances away from the pivot of the seesaw. When in equilibrium, the moments are the same clockwise as they are anti-clockwise. That's known as the principle of moments. Now, if we calculate the moments, a moment equals force times by distance. Clockwise has to equal anti-clockwise, so we can input our numbers if we're given numbers and try and work it out. The general equation is that the force of object 1 times by its distance from the pivot equals the force of object 2 times by the distance of its pivot. So let's input some numbers here and try and work out what this missing distance is. So our purple object is 4 newtons downwards. We don't know how far away from the pivot. And our red object is 10 newtons downwards, 3 meters away from the pivot. So we can see we've got the missing variable here on the left-hand side. And if we just solve the right-hand side, 10 times 3 is 30, divide that by 4, we can find that the missing distance is 7.5 meters. And this makes sense because we've got a smaller force. It does need to be further away from the pivot, 7.5 meters, compared to 3 meters of the other object. Let's have a look at some nuclear decay equations. Now, they are equations. They're not on your equation sheet, but there's a way of solving them that you need to know. Let's first of all look at alpha decay. If I've got uranium-235, which has an atomic number of 92, let's say it decays into thorium, and we need to know what the mass number and the atomic number are of this element. So because alpha has got a mass number of 4, we can then subtract 4 from the initial uranium, giving us 235 minus 4 gives us 231. The atomic number goes down by 2 because an alpha particle has an atomic number of 2, giving us 92 minus 2, which is 90 overall. So those are the rules for how to solve alpha decay equations, is that you take off 2 from the atomic number and 4 from the mass number. Beta decay equations, the numbers can be a little bit trickier. A beta particle, we indicate with a mass number of 0 and an atomic number of minus 1. I'll explain this in a second. Let's look at an example decay for that. Let's say we've got carbon-14 decaying into nitrogen. And to work out the numbers, we can see that the mass number doesn't change, that stays at 14, and the atomic number goes up by 1. That's because we've got minus 1 on the beta particle, minus 1 plus something makes 6, that has to be 7. Now, let's explain why this happens. Inside the nucleus, to make a beta particle, a neutron has to turn into a proton. So that nucleus gains a proton, that's why it's gone from 6 to 7, but the total mass number doesn't change. Staying in nuclear physics, let's have a look at half-life. So to calculate half-life, this is the one big calculation, could be 2 or 3 marks. You don't get anything on your equation sheet to help you. You've got to be able to figure out yourself. There is one equation I think can be helpful to use though. So let's have a look at an example. It says calculate the final activity after 80 days if a substance has an initial activity of 360 becquerels and its half-life is 20 days. So if its half-life is 20 days and its 80 days have passed, that means that's 4 half-lives total, because 80 divided by 20 gives us 4. So if it's halved 4 times and it started on 360, we can see we halve it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times gives us 22.5 becquerels. So you can just do it that way, just by looking at how many half-lives there are and figuring it out. An equation that can help, though, is to say the activity equals the initial activity, A0, divided by 2 to the power of how many half-lives there are. Let's just show you that this equation works. So if I have activity equals the initial 360 divided by 2 to the power of 4, so 4 half-lives, then basically I'm finding 1/16 of 360, which gives us 22.5 becquerels. And that's how you can use that equation in half-life calculations. And there we go. Those are the different equations which for GCSE Physics you need to know but aren't given to you on your equation sheet. Sometimes they'll come up in written questions, sometimes in numerical questions. Just make sure you know them and the physics behind them, and you'll do fine. And thanks for watching. I'll see you again for the next video.